over the dark night. She reached up to the sky of stars and caught the red-hot light of the North Star.
Greetings and welcome back. The barrage of missiles and drones continue to fly between Iran and Israel. Trump warns Iran that it would face the U.S. military, quote, at levels never seen before, end quote, if it attacked America's forces or land, in a scathing message to the Islamic regime. How will the U.S. respond to this conflict? Let's connect some dots and find out.
Connecting the Dots with Dr. Wilmer Leon, where the analysis of politics, culture, and history converge.
Welcome to the Connecting the Dots podcast with Dr. Wilmer Leon, and I am Wilmer Leon. Here's the point. We have a tendency to view current events as though they occur in a vacuum, failing to understand the broader historic context in which most events take place. During each episode, my guests and I have probing, provocative, and in-depth discussions that connect the dots between these events and the broader historic context in which they occur, thus enabling you to better understand and analyze the events that are impacting the global village in which we live. Before we get to my guests, let's look at some of today's headlines. The Washington Post reports accused Minnesota shooter allegedly went to homes of two other officials. The man charged with shooting two Democratic lawmakers and their spouses this weekend went to the homes of at least two other Minnesota elected officials as he carried out the attacks. Vance Luther Bolter extensively stalked his victims and posed as a law enforcement officer during the attacks. He allegedly stopped at the homes of a state representative in Maple Grove, Minnesota, and a state senator in New Hope, in between shootings that killed State Representative Melissa Hortman and her husband Mark, and left State Senator John Hoffman and his wife Yvette seriously injured. The Washington Post also reports tariffs, Israel, and Trump are likely topics as ANSI G7 leaders meet in Canada. Leaders of the world's major economies have gathered in Canada, hoping to persuade a mercurial U.S. president to preserve long-standing alliances and calm a jittery global landscape, but in some cases are willing to go their own way if they do not succeed. The G7 has historically served as a forum for the free world's strongest economies to talk about their shared interests on trade, security, and climate policy. But Trump has upended these interests by imposing tariffs, arguing for the annexation of Canada as the 51st state, and threatening to use military force to take over Greenland, a mineral-rich island territory controlled by Denmark. And it's also being reported right now that President Trump is refusing to sign a G7 statement on Israel's attack on Iran. Antiwar.com reports killing of Alawites continues in Syria. Civilians are asked religion at checkpoints. Pro-Hayat Tahrir al-Sham, or HTS, militias distributing leaflets threatening new massacre. Sectarian violence remains a recurring problem in Syria, with reports that the nation's Alawite minority continue to bear the brunt of the attacks. Though some killings are being carried out by unknown gunmen, many are taking place at official government checkpoints. This was the case yesterday when a general security checkpoint between Masyaf and Homs saw an Alawite civilian summarily executed. According to reports, those stationed at the checkpoint are asking people to verify their religion, and the man was shot immediately after confirming he was an Alawite. And finally, U.S. Senator moves to limit Trump's war powers on Iran as Mideast conflict escalates. A Democratic senator introduced legislation earlier today to prevent U.S. President Trump from using military force against Iran without Congress's authorization as an escalating battle between Israel and Iran raised fears of broader conflict. Tim Kaine, senator from Virginia, has tried for years to wrest back Congress's authority to declare war from the White House. On today's episode, the issue before us is the barrage of missiles and drones continue to fly between Iran and Israel. Netanyahu says Israel won't rule out killing Khomeini, saying it would end the conflict. And Israel tries to assassinate Houthi military chief of staff in Yemen. My guest is the founder of Free Palestine TV, which can be found at freepalestine.video. He's an award-winning independent journalist and analyst. He's joining us from Beirut, Lebanon. Laith Marouf, my brother, as always, welcome back. Let's unmute that mic. And then
yes, I was muting it just to be able to hear your intro. Thank you very much for the invitation, Wilmer. It's great to be with you as usual.
I want to run about a minute or so of some video, and then we'll come and get your take. Let's go ahead and roll the video, please.
Terrified Iranian woman films from her window, then down on the street. They are hitting. They hit 3 or 4 back to back, she says.
Moments ago, Israel launched Operation Rising Lion, a targeted military operation to roll back the Iranian threat to Israel's very survival.
This morning, an apartment.
Operation Rising Lion. When this jumped off, there was a period where Iran had not responded. Now Iran is responding. Laith Marouf, tell us from Lebanon what we're not getting reported here in the West.
Well, obviously, even the name of the operation, Rising Lion, has Crusader connotations. It's religious connotations of the Israelites getting up and killing Canaanites. And so we are continuing, as we see, with the normalization of religious fascism as a normal context in the operations of the quote-unquote Jewish state. And there's nobody in the Western media is even mentioning this fact. This naming of this operation is already a genocidal naming and a religious fanatic naming. So what are we, you're not hearing right now that I am seeing here in Lebanon is in the south of Lebanon. By the way, every night here we can see the missiles of Iran crossing over Lebanon, even from Beirut. So it's hypersonic missiles and these ballistic missiles that are going up all the way to the upper atmospheres before starting their descent on the Zionist colony are visible from Beirut. And people in the south of Lebanon, they're feeling the shake of the ground all the way in Nabatea city, 15 kilometers, 12 miles away from the border. They are hearing the explosions. They are seeing the night sky light up that far away. So although most of the news coverage and the social media posts that we're seeing inside the Zionist colony are all concentrated in the major cities of Tel Aviv and Haifa, the vast majority of attacks by Iran with its missiles, hypersonic and ballistic, and their drones are occurring in the north and in the military bases spread out across the country. And the fact that 50 somewhat percent is directed on the northern border with Lebanon and the occupied Golan Heights, that means all the defensive lines of the Zionists now in the north are demolished. And this is what prompted Netanyahu to pull out 60% of the Israeli troops in the Gaza extermination camp, to station them over the last 24 hours on the border with Lebanon and the Golan Heights. This is how desperate the situation is for the Israeli military, and this is why the West is rushing to fight a war on behalf of Israel that's already has been defeated by Iran as we're speaking.
Dr. Nick has a question. Could Laith explain why Iran hasn't hit the desalination plants? And let me proffer an answer and then get your response. My response, Dr. Nick, would be because Iran, as a Muslim country, has very strict rules of engagement and warfare, and civilian targets are outside the realm of acceptable. They're not military targets. And as I understand it, even to this point, Iran is still focusing on the elements of the Israeli military that have been responsible for attacking Iran directly. And that's why they're not bombing hospitals. That's why they're not bombing schools and other areas of civilian interest, that they are attacking what they have been able to determine to be the sites that are responsible for the attack that has been precipitated upon them. Laith Marouf.
Yes, obviously Islamic rules of war entail that you cannot cut a tree, you cannot attack a house of worship, and you cannot attack people that are not carrying arms against you. Having said that, it's also important right now to notice how over the last 12 hours, the Zionists began targeting civilian targets in Iran. So the Zionists, for instance, attacked 2 hospitals now over the last 12 hours. And just a few hours ago, attacked the national television station. And it was broadcasting live when the attack happened.
In fact, hang on, Laith. I think we've got the video of that. If we could run that clip, please.
Yeah. So
let's see if we have. Do we have that? Okay. Well, we'll get it up. Go ahead, Laith.
As soon as we get it up, I'll stop talking. But
okay.
what I was trying to say is that we have now clear indication that the Zionists have ran out of military targets that they can reach and hit, and therefore right now they've moved to their favorite targets, which is the medical staff, the journalists, the schools. They also attacked, by the way, the dorms of the University of Tehran, the students' dorms, right? So these are the most favorite targets for this pedophile army, child killers army of the Zionists.
Here's the video.
Allahu Akbar. So you see this, the poise of this woman, how collected she was, and she was speaking to her nation about this war that is killing children. When she was, the studios were attacked, and you could see that she understands that she is delivering on her duty as a journalist to their nation under war by the West. And obviously, we don't forget what the CNN journalists, how they throw themselves on the ground during the beginning of the war in Gaza, whatever her name is, Clarissa Bag of Crap. So there's a huge difference between the journalists that work for a cause that they believe in and those who are propagandists. Yeah, I want to say that this woman now is a national hero in Iran. That video that you shared has been shared hundreds of millions of times in the Persian-speaking communities inside Iran and outside Iran. Add to it the millions of views that it had now in various languages. And as a result of the clear intention of the Zionists to, because they've lost militarily already the war with Iran, and their clear intention now to move to genocidal actions in order to supposedly achieve their goal. And let's be very honest, the Zionists have tried this in Gaza, a genocide as a way to force the Palestinian people to submit to the fascism and Jewish supremacy. That didn't work. We saw mass destruction of Lebanon, and the Lebanese people kept their head high. The Zionists now and the West behind them are the responsible for the largest number of journalists killed in any war since the beginning of the recording of the numbers of journalists killed since World War I combined. All the wars since World War I till today, Israel killed more journalists than all of those combined together. And that is true also when we talk about medical staff. Okay, the Zionists and the West behind them are responsible for the largest number of medical staff killed in all the wars in human history. And we're just beginning. So what does this mean? I think the Iranians have had it. And given that the Americans are coming anyways, the West is all combining their force and they're going to come for Iran. Iran is going to land blows that are going to be unforgettable tonight. As we're speaking, there's already beginning the waves. Iran has issued a warning to the staff of the two major television stations, Channel 12 and Channel 14, that all the whole buildings are going to be destroyed tonight, that they shouldn't show up to work. At least a little bit, they're more humanist in that manner. And they've sent a whole huge map of Tel Aviv indicating all the locations that the civilians should evacuate, because those whole blocks will be erased where every ministry is. And the threats of Netanyahu to kill the Ayatollah, let everybody understand this in the West. I am not Shia, by the way, but I tell you this. If Donald Trump dares and kills the Pope of Shia Islam, the Ayatollah, I think no American or Westerner will be safe anywhere on this planet. What people don't understand is the implications on a religious war scale. Netanyahu has been pushing us into this Armageddon. Until now, the Armageddon is only being implemented on Arabic and Muslim brown bodies in this region. If the Ayatollah is touched, everybody on this planet will be at risk of what's going to come. Okay, and so I don't think they're going to deliver on this threat.
Let me ask you a question about that. understanding, and you were very clear, you are not Shia, and we understand the Sunni Shia division. If Israel were to carry out its threat to assassinate the Ayatollah, would that ire and that anger, would that go beyond the Shia-Sunni split, and then would all Muslims respond, or would that division within Islam impact the response?
Shia population is not a small population around the world.
Mm-hmm.
It's 20%, if not a little bit more than the total Muslim population. And if the Ayatollah is killed, regular Shia person in London would do something.
Mm.
A regular Shia person in Detroit would do something. And nobody will be able to control them. There will be this becomes something that is uncontrollable. How the reaction will be of regular Joe Blow Shia in the street of some country that has supported this attack on the Ayatollah.
What I was trying to sort out in my head, and now I can state it succinctly. What would the Saudis do? Because they're Sunni. So
yeah. Look, the Saudi state and the Wahhabi cult probably will be rejoicing about this.
Okay.
But the vast Muslim population of Muslim people are not Wahhabis, and
Right.
they understand that, as we see, actually the biggest victims of Western imperialism within the Muslims are Sunni Muslims. The killing fields of Libya and Iraq and Syria and Yemen targeting. So, and Somalia and Sudan, these are not Shia people that have been culled in the millions over the last 2 decades. So I think people, speaking to the American population, they just need to understand how close we are to the point of no return, of total chaos, and what will be normalized in Tehran today. Already what was normalized in Gaza means right now we can have limitless wars of genocide targeting civilians. That's what was normalized in Gaza. The attacks on a civilizational capital like Tehran, or the killing of the chief representative of a religious group, will normalize such things to everybody. Okay, and it's not going to be limited to our region.
One of the things that caught my attention as I was reading varying stories about Netanyahu's threat, and that Donald Trump at one point is quoted as saying, at one point is saying, don't do that. But then later he's now, I think, been quoted as saying, well, if that happens, it would end the conflict. And that signals to me a change from the first administration to this administration. In the first administration, I believe there would have been people in the room telling Donald Trump basically what you've just said. Hey, man, you don't want to smoke at that gas station. That's not a good idea. But now, because he seems to just have surrounded himself with sycophants and yes people, that nobody's going to turn to him and say, look, you don't understand the broader social impact, cultural impact, religious impact. You're about to ignite the fuse to blow up the world. You don't get that. I don't hear anybody in his ear giving him that sage counsel.
Yeah, and look, we're whether the U.S. tries to kill the Ayatollah or does kill him or not, if the United States enters this war officially, in fact, the United States has been running this war and has been conducting the vast majority of these attacks. We see the puny Zionist state with 250 fighter jets cannot conduct these attacks on Iran, a vast territory with millions of peoples and hundreds of targets being attacked simultaneously. That tells you basically the U.S. is already involved directly. But if the U.S. announces its involvement in this war, which the Iranians are expecting any minute, this is something that people should understand. Watching the Iranian generals speak on Iranian media over the last few days, they said that they knew that Trump was pulling their leg in order to have the Zionist attack. They just didn't know that there was infiltration troop groups on the ground with those drone trucks, the same ones that they use on Russia in the attack on its strategic bombers. They didn't expect that. They were expecting an attack from the air, which means the Israelis can't attack Tehran. They don't have the capabilities to attack Tehran from the air. And now we understand that this is where the mistake was. People were sleeping in their homes, most of these people, and were targeted by drones taking off from inside Tehran and or ATGMs, anti-tank missiles fired from within 5 kilometers of their location. So, over the last few days, Iran has cleaned up and caught all those units. And this is why we see Israel making these threats, and Israel directing its attacks on civilian soft targets with their remaining infiltration units that they have on the ground, and begging the United States to enter this war, because on the Iranian missile waves are destroying all the air defense systems of Israel, and already there's a huge gap in the air defenses of Israel that's making it much easier for all the missiles to enter after 3 nights of bombardment. And if the United States doesn't enter right now, there's going to be no more Israel. And that is why it is eventual that the United States will enter directly, and then all bets are off.
Donald Trump, I read his quote in the open, saying that in fact, let me quickly go back to it, saying that if Iran attacked American forces or land, that there would be a U.S. military response at levels never seen before. But if the United States directly enters the conflict, then the United States bases in the region all become targets. And not to say that they're not already targets, but they become targets. They will be struck. There's nothing that Trump can say or do to avoid that.
Yeah, I think the Iranians, as these generals in their interviews are saying, and they know that the United States is going to enter this war, and therefore they have not 90% of their new weapons. They have not been opened up, and their strategic reserves have not been touched, because they know that the fight is going to be with the whole might of the West any minute now. And so that's one thing. And I think look at what the Iranians have done right now inside the Zionist colony. They destroyed all their airports and airfields. The Israeli Air Force has not landed inside the Zionist colony since the first night of attacks on Iran, the first day. They are taking off from Cyprus, from Greece, maybe from Jordan, we're not sure yet. But they cannot land back inside the Zionist colony. And the West is flying them nonstop air fueling jets to keep them in the air as long as they can before they have to go to something that's far as Cyprus and or Greece. And so in a situation where the United States officially enters this war, any and all airfields in the region, including those in Cyprus, will be hit. Iran will not target the land army troops of the United States in bases yet in the first stage. If the United States enters this war, it's going to enter it from the air, and all that Iran has to do is destroy the airstrips in the region all the way to Greece, and then nothing can be attacked from air. And if the United States is stupid enough to use their aircraft carriers to attack Iran, well, Iran has weapons that are 100 times stronger than those of Yemen, and we will see aircraft carriers sinking. So that's going to happen for sure. And I think Trump is preparing people for what's going to come. He knows there's going to be thousands of American Navy and Air Force troops that are going to die at first if this happens. And we are going to see it happen. There's no, I don't think there's any way we can avoid this right now because of the whole West hedging their superiority over the rest of humanity on the survival of the Zionist colony.
In fact, I read a story today that one of the carriers that was in the South China Sea is on its way to the region. And I think that's all they're doing is sending targets to be struck. And I'm not wishing that upon anybody, but I'm just looking at what I think the outcome will be. Let's look at some of these comments going back to the video and the attack on the Iranian news station. Ken McGee says that the journalist showed great courage and he heard she came back later to continue her live reporting. Jay says Americans don't have moral character to report the truth without threats on their lives. James says real journalism is truth telling, blowing the whistle. That's an enemy to the terrorists. A number of folks, Dr. Nick is thanking Ayatollah Khomeini for the fireworks. Will there be a Sandra asks, is the draft coming? Sandra, that's an interesting question because I don't think the country will tolerate that. That if we look at the protests that took place on the No King's Day and in response to Donald Trump's really failed celebration on my birthday, the fact it was his, that's really irrelevant. Saturday was my birthday. I don't think the country would tolerate that. We have a new member here, Eric McHorter. Eric, thank you for joining us as a new member. Greatly appreciate that. Dr. Nick asks, is there any scenario Iran can end this before the Nimitz arrives in the Persian Gulf? Interesting juxtaposition there. Can Iran end this before the Nimitz arrives? Your thoughts, because I don't see how the Zionist colony of Israel calls an end to this based upon what Iran does.
Yeah,
that would be surrender.
Yeah, I mean, this is what they want the Iranians to do, to surrender, which is not going to happen. And but I understand maybe the guy is asking if Iran can end Israel
No, that no,
before
I understood.
before the aircraft carrier arrives.
Yeah, that was my point. I understood that to be his question, and I was saying that would mean Israel would have to surrender, and that's not going to happen.
Yeah, so this is where I think when Netanyahu repeats that this is an existential threat or existential war, he is right, and everybody should believe him. And I think Trump also understands that this is an existential war for the 600 years of Western European hegemony over humanity. And this is why the whole West is hedging their existence on the colony. And, we over the last few days, we saw the escalation that, or the ladder that Iran is following as an escalation ladder. And they do not want to be the ones that cause the nuclear holocaust or the nuclear fallout or the nuclear war that is coming. The Zionists want that. They are Armageddonists. They actually truly believe they are the chosen people.
Mm-hmm.
The Zionists do truly believe that they are bringing the end of times. Believe them. Okay? And so up until now, although Iran could destroy the Dimona reactor, they have been hitting around it and destroyed the air interception, air defense systems around it. They haven't hit it yet, purposefully. If the Zionists attack a nuclear reactor in Iran and a nuclear fallout and a nuclear cloud is formed, for sure, Iran will destroy the multiple nuclear reactors that are inside the Zionist colony, and that will make a nuclear fallout on all of the settlers there. But I want to also add to it that a nuclear fallout from a reactor in Iran blowing will shower all of Pakistan and all of Afghanistan and parts of China immediately with a nuclear fallout. And this is why the Chinese, the Pakistani military, understands that if a nuclear fallout happens over Pakistan, there will be no Pakistan. There's nothing to feed the people anymore. It's 280 million people will be starving. This is why Pakistan and its military said that if there is an attack on a nuclear site in Iran that leads to nuclear fallout, and or if Tehran is attacked with a nuclear weapon, Pakistan will nuke Tel Aviv. These are the Pakistani military that was an agent, a tool of the West for decades, realizing that, goddamn, we're going to be dead with Iran if this happens, and we're going to have to survive somehow. And this is how close we are right now to a nuclear war. And believe me, China will not sit aside either. Maybe Russia will sit aside in the beginning, but China is not going to sit aside if it has to deal with nuclear fallout itself.
Where now is Yemen in this mix? Because you have Iran, as you just mentioned, sending missiles, and that you are able in Lebanon, that you're able to see the trace of those missiles. Well, Yemen is at the, I guess that's the southern, that would be the southern end of the Zionist colony. So they could very well start being attacked from a number of different fronts or angles. So where is Yemen? Because I haven't heard or seen any reports that Yemen has been sending missiles in.
Oh yeah, like this has actually happened 3 nights in a row. One of the waves each night of Iranian missiles and drones was also a complex, coordinated attacks with Yemen, firing hypersonic missiles and drones simultaneously. So, and those two waves in the 2 nights in a row now constitute the largest, complex, coordinated, multi-weapon attack in history. Okay, so you're talking about hundreds of hypersonic missiles, ballistic missiles, drones from two countries that are, each of them are thousands of kilometers away from each other and away from the target. So it's a huge technical achievement. And it shows you that in a situation where actually the United States stupidly sees itself directly involved in this war, it's going to be sandwiched between the missiles of Yemen and the missiles of Iran. And believe me, looking at in the eyes of Trump, once the casualties of American soldiers start piling up, it's clear that he's crazy enough to also launch a nuke, again, putting us at the edge of nuclear holocaust and nuclear winter for all the planet.
You've mentioned Zionism, but a lot of people don't realize that there are Christian Zionists. And Mike Huckabee, for example, former governor of Arkansas, is now the U.S. ambassador to Israel. And so that's another factor, another element, I think, in this when you stop and look at who's in Donald Trump's ear and what are these people telling him. You've got Christian Zionists that are backing this play as well.
Yeah, and Mike Huckabee is a crazy loon. And I mean, but honestly, look at his face and you realize that's for sure the guy is not religious. He's just a wacko and most probably a pedophile that the Zionists have some tapes on. Every time I see him coming up on the media, he looks more, pimped up than before. His with beard and mustache and hair and clothes literally look like a pimp right now from the 1980s, not even the cool pimps from the 1970s. So it's a difference, right? And I'm sure in my mind, the vast majority of Christians in the world are anti-Zionist. It's a shame that there's even some Christians that would believe in this crap. This is not to undermine the power of these Christian Zionists in the West, but without the Jewish Zionists offering the excuse, there wouldn't exist Christian Zionists. So, and the most difficult problem right now for, I think, people in the West, it's not difficult for us anymore here, is differentiating between Judaism and Zionism. And this is the reason that there's a difficulty right now, is because every official Jewish organization in the West, whether it's these umbrella organizations and or the synagogues and or there's Jewish schools or the Jewish charities or the Jewish hospitals, they're all Zionist wall to wall. There's only this alternative Jewish Voices or Jewish Voices for Peace that represent 1% but don't have any control of any Jewish institutions within their own communities, don't even have a official sect recognized by a government. So this is where the difficulty lies. And me as a Palestinian, as an Arab, as a Muslim, it's not my business. If there is Jewish people that are anti-Zionist, that love Judaism, they need to show the world that they're willing to fight for Judaism. Okay, maybe you're not willing to come and help Palestinian children like the German good peoples that helped Jewish children escape from the Holocaust. I haven't seen one Jewish person do that around the world, try to help Palestinian children escape the Holocaust being committed in their name. So these Jewish people that love their religion and want to liberate it from Zionism need to confront the Zionists amongst them foremost before anything else. I don't want to hear independent Jewish voices or Jewish voices for peace or Code Pink, Medea going and demonstrating another congressman or another public library or at a public building. Go and demonstrate the Jewish synagogue that is teaching hate. Go confront the rabbis that are teaching hate. Go liberate your children from Jewish schools that are teaching them hate and programming them and brainwashing them. If you're not willing to do that as a Jewish person who is anti-Zionist, it's not my business anymore what is the fate of Judaism as a Palestinian. It's not the horse that I have a bet on. I haven't converted to Judaism to care if anybody differentiates between Judaism and Zionism. I cared for a long time, but it seems like I cared more than the Jews themselves cared for Judaism's fate and reputation. And I'm done. Right now, we're not a Holocaust. Do I have to, in the middle of, imagine if Jews in the middle of the Holocaust were defending the honor of Germans. That's like a crazy talk.
Very simply, what do you believe is the overarching strategic goal behind this escalation and at this time? As we look at initially, Donald Trump says, "Oh, I didn't know anything about this," and we know that's just that was just a lie. In fact, I had said to a number of people on a couple of shows that whether Donald Trump knew about this or not, whether Netanyahu called him on Monday and said, "Hey, Donald, look, tomorrow it's on. This is what I'm going to do," because they're operating in concert. So the day-to-day interaction, sitting around the table, planning or doing, that's not necessary because they understand each other's interests and they're operating in those interests. So did Netanyahu call Trump? I don't know. I don't care. I think that question is more of a distraction than anything. But and you can respond to that, but what's the overarching strategic end game here in terms of the action being taken and why it's being taken now?
It is being taken now. The action is because the Zionist colony is at its end. And it has been defeated on every battlefront, haven't been able to defeat any of its rivals, whether it's the tiny Hamas, 20,000 fighters, or the bigger Hezbollah, a couple 100,000 fighters, or Yemen, so the Zionists keep on escalating and going to the next stage in what they had planned as wars before they even finish one stage, because they can't finish any stages. And the minute they stop any of these attacks, the minute they stop the genocide, the minute they stop attacking Yemen or Lebanon, it's over for the Zionist colony. It cannot. The time to judge them will come. It will be impossible to defend at that moment, and it's going to collapse. So this is what's happening, and the ultimate goal that the Zionists have is to defeat the will of the Arabic people and the Muslim people in general, and beyond the just the greater Syria region here, the Fertile Crescent, also the Iranian peoples. And the United States has been doing this systemically as a psychological warfare and as a reforming of peoples and nations. And those mass rapes of Syrian men and women and Iraqi men and women at the hands of ISIS, the tool of the CIA and the Zionists, the mass killings and rapes in Libya, in Sudan, in Somalia, those are to break the will of these peoples. What you saw the Israeli soldiers do to Palestinian prisoners, raping them with rods and so forth on camera, this is intentional. It's not only perversion. They believe they need to break the will of the Arab man or the Muslim man, rape his whole family in front of him, so a whole nation is broken forever. Okay, this is the whole, everything that they're doing. So, and we are crazy, the Arabs and the Muslims in around us here. We are people that don't accept to be slaves. I'm sorry to tell you that. You're gonna, armies after armies for close to 6,000 years now have been rolling over the Arabic world and finding the end of their empires in these sands because of our will. And the Zionists will cease to exist like before them, the Crusaders.
Jay writes, white Western atheists might or might not be pro-Israel. They are still pro-white hegemony of what they call the Middle East. They don't understand the political project of Zionism or U.S. imperialism. I think that's fairly valid and succinct analysis. So now you've got Pakistan coming in and saying they're backing Iran. We know Yemen is backing Iran. You've mentioned a couple of times Israel has already lost. And Auntie Ann, thank you for, well, so let me since she just contributed, let me get to her question, then I'll get back to mine. What brought the urgency of the Zionist attack is Gaza genocide is almost completed and Netanyahu is sick. He wants the world to end before he does. You didn't also, you need to mention his criminal trial. Because there are those that are saying that the outcome of his criminal trial is another one of the reasons why he's escalating this, because this is a distraction away from his arrest and possible detention. Your thoughts?
Yeah, I mean, look, there was also the Haredi parties, the Jewish religious Zionist parties, including the ones that Smotrich and Ben Gvir belonged to, and the Shas party, that were going to collapse the Knesset and force a early election on the issue of the religious Zionists being recruited into the military. They would rather like that other Zionists die for them while they sit down and read the Torah or the Talmud, more likely. And so these were some of the triggers. But, let's not get too dragged into this soap opera theatrics or reality TV that is designed, because there's no such thing as democracy. Okay, let's not kid ourselves. There's neither is for the inside the Zionist colony or the United States. It's all a show. We're all adults. Let's not get dragged into that. And so I would say that overall, the lifespan of a colony that hasn't eradicated the indigenous people or made them into a minute minority that cannot do anything is very short. And that window, as we saw, was coming before even October 7th. The Palestinians inside Palestine have become the majority back again after, and why does the Israelis want to kill all these Arabs outside Palestine? Also, it's because we're all Arabs. If the Zionists kill every Palestinian, which they could, which they are working towards, but they're not going to succeed. But if they kill every Palestinian, other Arabs will fight for that land. Look, the Crusaders did that. You don't think the Crusaders genocided every Palestinian when they also moved in or kicked them all out? They did. And in the end, other Arabs, fought back and took back the land, descendants of and relatives of. So, and there's the bigger picture of Islam. You think the Muslims are going to leave Jewish supremacists and the West with them, say they're in control of Jerusalem and they've defeated the Muslim hordes in 1912, or that was the headlines in American and British newspapers after the capture of Palestine by British forces during World War I. The return to Palestine for the first time since the Crusades. Jerusalem is liberated from the Muslims. That was the headlines in American and British newspapers. So do you think this is gonna? So there is no way that Israel can exist without constant, limitless genocide. And the target group is not the Palestinians only, those 14 million Palestinians inside and outside Palestine, but also the whole 600 million Arabs, the second largest linguistic group, the ethno-linguistic group in the world, and the whole 2 billion Muslims that dare ever think of liberating Jerusalem.
Here's an interesting question. Trump has shown he has no real alliance or allegiance to Zelensky, to Canada, to Mexico. Do you believe there will come a point where he turns his back on Netanyahu as well? Let me proffer an opinion and then get your thoughts. I think there's a huge difference between the Zionist colony of Israel and every other so-called ally that could be listed. And that is the control that organizations such as AIPAC have on the American legislative process. So even though Trump and Netanyahu may at some times be at odds, that's just the friction of a bromance. That's not a policy issue, which is why when you look at the Biden administration, American policy towards Israel has not changed over the last 60 years, no matter who is in the White House. I just picked 60 out of the air. So we have to be sure we understand the layers and the levels of this, which is also why, and then I'll come to you for your answer, I had been saying, and a whole lot of other people had been saying, whether Kamala Harris won or whether Donald Trump won didn't matter, especially on this issue, because they're all Zionists. She's married to a Zionist. She takes money from AIPAC. So there's no way that she was going to have any kind of backbone, have any kind of type of insight to change American policy. And to me, policy is the operative word here. What say you, Laith Marouf?
Yeah, and look, Zelensky is a Jewish supremacist that's ruling Ukraine in bed with Nazis. Zionists and Nazis are running Ukraine. And I would say the Zionists have instigated the war in Ukraine to force Russia to pull out of Syria. And that's what in the end they got. They know that they cannot, the West, the whole West, and the Zionists have probably gave them as an opinion, consultation. They know that Ukraine cannot win a war against Russia, and they know that they will not enter a war with Russia for Ukraine. The whole plot of Ukraine, if everybody remembers, is that the Russian Air Force and military landed in Syria the same year the Americans, by the way, and that was the beginnings of this world war that we're living. It was the first time that the two major powers meet on the same battlefield. 2015 in Syria, and within 6 months, you had the Maidan beginning. Okay, so the whole war of Ukraine was orchestrated to drag Russia away from Syria, and it succeeded. Okay, and today that's ended the use of it. And because the priority was always about the Zionist colony dominating the Arabs and the Muslims in the region here, we're back to that. And now that the Israelis are unable to dominate the Arabs and the Muslims without the direct, non-stop backing of all of the military might of the West, we see the West abandoning Ukraine. They will be abandoning it and rushing all their air force and every missile that they have. Look, those THAAD missiles that the US has to deliver now to Israel, there's only 2,000 of those missiles on the whole planet, right? And those two batteries over the last 3 nights, those two batteries of THAAD that are stationed inside the Zionist colony, they fired already, at least 40 of those missiles to try to intercept. So, pretty soon there will be no THAAD missiles for South Korea. Okay, and Kim should be ready to liberate South Korea.
Willie Hicks, thank you for that $20 super sticker. He says he's got to go train a student, but wanted to support this episode. What's being discussed here is not in the main. Thank you, Dr. Leon, and thank you, Mr. Marouf. Thank you, Brother Willie Hicks. Folks, OPSEC is where you want to go if you want to. If you're in the DMV and you want to learn to train with handguns, OPSEC. Willie Hicks is where you go. Pauline Douglas, $19.99 super sticker. Thank you very much. Thank you. And Laith, I know your time is short. You've got just a couple of minutes left with us. So as folks eventually walk away from this conversation, what do you want them? Wait, really quickly. Cam 35 says THAAD are white elephants. During the development in the 90s, they put homing device in the target so that the THAAD could find it and hit it. Okay, well, that's I love that bear. I love that bear. Would like to meet that bear one day. Not in the woods, but anyway.
Yeah.
So what was so what do you want people to walk away from this conversation having a clearer understanding of?
Okay, so I just want to say, like, in terms of abandoning Netanyahu, it could happen. I don't think it is going to happen. So what we need to concentrate right now to make that abandoning of Netanyahu happen is for the peoples in the West to make their bring into fact their will as a people. And at the moment, if the populace in the West doesn't take action that could affect the flow of this war, we will find ourselves inevitably in a nuclear war. And so I hope people understand how serious the situation is. We're at the edge. There's no way Iran is going to back down, and Israel is already defeated, but the West wants to bring it a win. And if we start seeing B-52s and B-2 bombers trying to hit the nuclear sites in Iran, it's going to be too late for anyone to stop what's coming. So the window is very short to take physical action that diverts the path of these militaries coming to bombard Iran. Otherwise, see you all in heaven or hell or whatever we're going to be, okay?
Laith Marouf, my brother, as always, thank you so much for your time. Greatly appreciate that analysis as always. I always pray for you and your family's safety. And as always, look forward to having you back, man.
See you soon, inshallah. We'll be all safe.
Thank you, my brother. Really appreciate it. Wow, folks. Thank you all so much. Let me be sure I got everybody in here. I think I did. Is this one new? That was Willie. Willie, go train that student. And whoever that student is, they're being trained by the best. My brother Ken McGee, thank you for checking in. Greatly appreciate that. Ali Quolian, he joined us. And Ali, if you're still with me here, we got to get you on. Ali is in Iran. And Ali, I'm glad that you logged on, because I sent you a couple messages just to check on you and your family, and I'm sure you're kind of busy dodging missiles. So I'm glad that all is well. Sandra Muhammad, Dr. Nick, all y'all, thank you. Really appreciate you all joining us today. I thought this was very good insight, very good analysis. Diamond says that was sobering. Yes. Rample Sense says, thank you, Laith and Dr. Leon. Dr. Nick, thank you all. And because, hey, sobering is what is needed here. And that's why we do what we do. And that's why I say to y'all, we do this for you, but we can't do this without you. Want to thank Laith for joining me today. Thank you all so much for listening to the Connecting the Dots podcast with me, Dr. Wilmer Leon. New episode tomorrow. I'm going to withhold the announcement of the guest, but I'm fairly sure that my guys are going to join us tomorrow. Please follow and subscribe, leave a review, share the show. We're getting closer. We're inching closer to 10,000. We'd like to leap to 10,000. And we can do that with your support. And those of you that are watching from other platforms, I saw some folks from Facebook. Thank you all. For those of you that are joining us from other platforms, please subscribe through YouTube. That will mean an awful lot in terms of enabling us to stay right here doing what we do. This is the point or the place where the analysis of politics and culture and history converge. And today's discussion, I think, was a perfect example of that convergence. Talk without analysis is just chatter. And we don't chatter here on Connecting the Dots, because we are a rhetoric-free broadcast. See you tomorrow. Until then, I am Dr. Wilmer Leon. Have a wonderful remainder of the rest of your day. Peace. I'm out.
Connecting the Dots with Dr. Wilmer Leon, where the analysis of politics, culture, and history converge.